you. So next we are going to get on to season 3, which is S Club 7 Hollywood. So this is season 3, episode 1, The Last Chance. S Club 7 decide to give themselves 24 hours to find a manager, or they will split up and return to England. Ooh, the stakes have gone up, haven't they? So while searching, Joe and Bradley pay for the help of Mystic Pete, who tells them that they will find success at the place where the big silver birds go to die. Oh my god, that's brilliant. Meanwhile, an unsuccessful manager, Dean Strickland, is given 24 hours to find talent. Otherwise, he's going to have to also give up his career. He then also goes to Mystic Pete, and they tell him to go to the same location. Luckily, Tina saves Dean from a thief stealing his watch, and so the gang end up coming into contact with him. I'm already thinking that burglar should be the same burglar that we've encountered throughout this game. So this burglar just needs to be like a running theme throughout the game. They start again on their travels, so again you get to do a nice chill drive to the next location. So you're going like further into Hollywood. And their main goal for this is they need to find Mystic Pete. So I believe that you play as Joe and Bradley for this. So you can choose whether you play as Joe or Bradley, and you've got to find Mystic Pete, and then there'll be a cutscene of where they need to go next. I've also written here there'll be 3 separate time challenges. You've got to find Mystic Pete as Paul, Tina, and Rachel. And then you've got to obviously find Pete as Bradley and Joe. And then you've got to find them as Hannah and John. So you've got 3 separate time challenges, and maybe one of them is harder than the other. And there could be a Temple Run styled theme for each of the members of the group, but they get harder and harder as they go along. So not only will they have the time travel to find Mystic Pete, and they'll also need to find Dean Strickland, who is the producer who is about to lose his job as well. And then the group gathers back together and they realise that they need to go to this location, which is the Big Silver Birds Go to Die. So you play as S Club 7, but then maybe you have to change to Dean Strickland and also drive as him to get to the same location. And then you finish that section with an S Club 7 performance, Dancing on the Plains. Season 3, Episode 2, Dosh. So, feeling sad, the group are cheered up when they get their first paycheck. Apart from Joe, who decides to save hers, and the rest of the group just go and spend their cash. So, Hannah buys some fish. Bradley tries to impress a girl. Paul buys some new water equipment. John gets a year's pass for Universal Studios. Tina pays for a $600 dance class. Rachel buys some new clothes. But they come to realise that each member of the band is getting a completely different paycheck, and they have to confront Dean about this, and apparently their wage is based on their popularity. This is going to be a really, really, really chilled section, and you get to play as each character. I don't think we've had much yet where you do get to play as each individual character to buy what you need, so we're going to do that. Hannah goes to the pet shop to buy a fish, but you can go and feed other animals as well. So I feel like you'll be able to find a store, and it's going to be like the biggest pet shop that you've ever seen in a video game. And you can spend time going to pet these animals, you can go and feed them, you can play with them. Like, for example, you just see, I know you don't usually get a capybara in a pet shop, but for this game, we're having a capybara in a pet shop. So, like, you're like, oh my god, capybara, that's so cute. I want to spend time with the capybara. And then you can just, groom it and make it look really pretty. Maybe you can, like, add a bow on it or something, Let's just have some fun with it. But eventually you do need to go and buy a goldfish, and then you can name the goldfish, and maybe you can teach it different tricks in the water tank. Who knows? I mean, there is so much that's gone on with this game. I mean, anything is possible. Then you've got Bradley, who just goes and buys a car and goes roller skating. Okay, So you just go and buy a car, but maybe you can customize the car as you want to, and you can put like S Club 7 on the doors or something like that. And then you could just go and chill and do some roller skating. Why not? You can play as Paul, who gets water equipment, where he likes to buy shirts and a surfboard. So you can go to the beach as Paul and you can go and learn some surf tricks. And you never know, you might also be in a contest and win a couple of dollars. John then buys a year pass for Universal. So this then you can spend some time on the roller coasters and you can go and buy sweets. It would basically just be like a big Disneyland experience. I've never been to Universal Studios, but I presume it's a similar sort of energy. So yeah, you could just go to roller coasters. Maybe you can watch a film. So maybe there's like a cinema that you can go and watch some of the clips from the TV series. And maybe you can go and buy some merch that you can take back with you and you can wear that throughout the game. Tina then does a dance rehearsal, so you can do some dance routines with Tina. Maybe this is like a mini rhythm game. You can choose what outfit you wear, and then you can do some dance routines. Rachel is giving I have played the Bratz on the PS2, so I'm going to go and do some clothes shopping. Maybe you could do some clothes design as well whilst you're there. And maybe there could just be like some puns of different shops. Or you could bring back shops that don't exist anymore, like Tammy Girl. Rachel Stevens going to Tammy Girl in the S Club 7 video game. That it has to happen. But the final person that you play as in this is Jo, and she needs to try and find her bandmates, and she ends up finding them in a restaurant. At this point, there's going to be a cutscene where they confront Dean about pay, and then he explains that it is down to popularity. Oh, there's also a bit as well, which isn't mentioned in the little synopsis of the episode, but there'll be a small cutscene where John is out on a date with Annie and she's convinced him to do some stunts because she is injured. Now, when I watched this episode, John doesn't actually do any of the stunts, but in the video game, John is going to be the best stuntsman that you have ever seen in your life. So he's going to be doing cartwheels and backflips and all sorts of like really random poses in the air. And he's also just going to get a little bit of money for risking his life. Also doesn't mention this in the synopsis, but I have watched the episode. So Hannah and Rachel are really not impressed that, they're getting different wages because of their popularity. So Hannah and Rachel have to sneak into Hollywood Media Group to get into Strickland's laptop to change the results for the focus group. So maybe you have to do this in a certain time limit, and you've got to find clues in the office as to what the password is. And if you don't do it in the right amount of time, you obviously get caught and you have to start the whole thing again. You get this idea that you have to find snacks that you have to give to the people in the focus group, so then you think that you're going to get a higher score. But in the episode, they do get caught, but in the game, they don't get caught. There is quite a lot in that episode. I do want it to be a mixture of a chilled vibe, but also a bit of fun sneaking around in the office. I do like the sneaking elements of this game. It's just a little bit of fun in it. Season 3, Episode 3, Public Relations. With publicity running dry, Dean hires an expert who sets up some attention-grabbing publicity stunts. Many of them are consisted with contrived stories, and the plan doesn't go very well, and Rachel and Hannah get a real shock on the Jerry Springer type show. Tina has to deal with some painful lies about plastic surgery, and John has been matched up with a fake girlfriend. Do you see what I mean about how they just have drama all the time? I'll tell you what the publicity stunts are. So Bradley and Paul get sponsorships. The girls end up having to do some publicity stunt with magazines, and John gets a high-profile romance with a person called Jewel Twang. There's a scene in the episode where Jo walks out of the door and there's loads of paparazzi, and this woman pretends to be her long-lost mother. And I was about to say, Jo goes, I'm not your mother. Oh, yes, I am. But that's EastEnders. But the aim of the game is to just try and get through the paparazzi. Like, they're all like trying to stop you from getting out, but then you're also being chased by this person that's pretending to be your long lost mother. And if you don't get out in time, then you have to do the whole thing again. So then Hannah and Rachel end up on the Jeffrey Swinger show. And this is a disaster because Frank claims to date Rachel, claims to also date Hannah, and somehow their twin brother Mikey is also involved in this. Maybe this is one where you have to try and escape the stage as Rachel and Hannah, and the presenter's trying to stop you, the twin brothers are trying to stop you, the audience and the cameramen, and they are just not making it easy for you to get out of that studio. But then Rachel and Hannah get their own back and they get to start throwing popcorn at everybody. They're like, you tried to stop us getting out. We're just going to throw popcorn all over you. And it's just like a little mini game just to transition into the next lot of drama. The paparazzi really like to harass S Club 7 in this episode. And Tina has to pretend to have this storyline that she's had plastic surgery. Now, she doesn't want to say she's had plastic surgery because she hasn't had it. So again, she could be then being chased by paparazzi, and maybe she's being chased by plastic surgeons as well. This whole level is basically just everybody trying to run away. And then you've got the situation with John where he's on a date with that girl that he doesn't like, Jewel Twang. And you have to have a multiple choice conversation and you have to try and get out of it. And if you make the wrong choice, then you have to stay with Jewel Twang for even longer than you want to. And I know that Bradley and Paul do have a sponsorship in this episode, but I couldn't really find a way to make that into part of the video game. But I just want to let you know that I have noticed that I've not mentioned much about the Bradley and Paul situation in this episode, but that is just because I was just struggling to get a little bit of inspiration for that part. Season 3, Episode 4, Doing the Deal. Dean tells the band that if they are unable to get a record deal, then they're gonna have to part ways. So Dean gets busy and he sends out demos to various record companies. And Dean actually tells S Club to wait in the house just to keep an eye on the phone. So they wait for this phone call, they pick up the phone, and it's like, you might have a chance to get a deal here, but you're gonna have to perform first. And Hannah and Joe fall out over a boy Hannah wants to break up with due to the fact that Joe considers her predictable. So first of all, you have to play as Dean and you have to go to different studios to hand out their demos. So there could be like 10 different places that you have to go, and maybe you get to drive your own car and you get to drive to these studios. This one will be a time limit as obviously the pressure is on to try and get S Club 7 a record deal. When S Club 7 then get into the studio, they have to perform their song and you have to get 95% of the dance game correct. So you must press the buttons in time to get that record deal. In the meantime, whilst you're waiting for a phone call to see if you've got a record deal or not, this could just be a time to spend in the house. Make some food if you're hungry, make yourself a drink. Maybe you can make yourself a fancy mocktail if you want to. Or if you feel like you want to just go for a nap like we all do, then you can go and have a nap. If you feel like you want to have a tidy around the house, that is an option as well. You could choose to put some music on the CD player. Maybe there's actually a games console in the house and you get to play like mini games on the console. Then you're waiting for a phone call to see if you've got the record deal. They do sort of get a record deal, but then they have to do another performance and they decide to perform Don't Stop Moving. Season 3, Episode 5, The Kiss made me gag when I watched it back. So I watched this episode a few months ago and I was like, I didn't know that happened. So they get the record deal and then they're going to throw a massive, massive party. And, they're going to be in like their best attire. They've just had an amazing, amazing announcement. So they want to have the biggest party ever. And maybe you need to have time to prepare the party. and you get to decorate the venue as you want to. Then when you're at the party, you get to explore, you get to talk to different guests that are there, find out their backstory. You can get food, you can get drinks. Maybe there's a bit where you can get a little bit tipsy, and maybe like your visions will be like woo, but obviously not getting too drunk or anything, but it's like you're having a drink and you're having a good time. This is the bit that made me go, oh, you as Paul or Hannah, you have a deep conversation, and the aim of the game is to kiss each other. When they kissed each other, when I watched the episode, I was like, oh, I didn't know they had a little kiss in the series. This is quite juicy, isn't it? And then obviously after that, you get to then perform at the party. There is also one other bit which I think is really nice, and I believe it's this episode where Jo finds a dog and she ends up bringing it in, and then you have to look after the dog. So throughout the game, you have to make sure that the dog is fed and watered and groomed, and make sure that you play with the dog as well. Season 3, episode 6, The Fan. On the set of their first music video, the group have a director who wants to take the video in many different directions. He just cannot make up his mind, and the group adopts some strange costumes, such as the yin and yang theme, cowboys and cowgirls, and devils and angels. In the end, the group decide to make their own music video featuring new footage at the beach and old footage from the video shoot. Then there's also a fan that becomes super obsessive with S Club 7. First, you can get them into their costumes. Maybe you can customize it a little bit, as long as it's sticking with the themes of like either the yin and yang or the cowboys. And you've got to follow the director for the music video. So you might have to do a dance rhythm game for this one. You can also choose which band member that you want to be for this. So say if you've got the cowboy section, you can play as John, or if you've got the devils and angels, you can then play as Tina. You get to choose. And with this, you then get Paul's camcorder back out, and you can get even more footage for your own music video. So you can use stuff that you've obviously captured previously, but I feel like there needs to be another mission where you do get brand new footage. Maybe you have to find certain items for this music video, but then you get free reign and you can take whatever video footage you like. Now, in the music video, in the episode, there are sections with the beach. You can drive a buggy. They choose their own outfits, and they do like a bit of horse riding. So we should obviously incorporate that into this level. So when you're recording footage, you get to drive the beach buggy. Maybe there's a bit where you have to make a sandcastle. We're just going to have sandcastles in this game. Then you've got this crazy fan who just won't leave you alone. And first you act as Bradley, and you've got to run away from this crazy fan. Then Rachel tries to stop this crazy fan, but then you act as Rachel, and you then have to run away from the crazy fan as well. So it's all been happening in this one. So season 3, episode 7, which is The Cousin, I've not written anything about this. It was just a little bit tricky to try and get this one into a video game, but it's basically, the episode is all around about Hannah's cousin, and I think he's actually trying to be a con artist or something like that. Season 3, episode 8, The Stylist. Dean decides that S Club 7 need a complete makeover, so he wants to create a new identity for the band. And the group do not like this, and they decide to rebel. You get to play as Dean, and he gets to do the customizations for what the S Club 7 band are going to wear, and all this stuff is just like really old and really not fitting to what S Club 7 is all about. So then with this, you get to rebel. So you get to design your own clothes then. So you're kind of thinking, well, you want a new identity, but it's going to be on our own terms. So then you get to design the clothes for your new branding. So once you have put your foot down, you're then going to find Television City, and you're going to then perform to, I think it's the biggest stage that they have performed at yet. This is going to be a melody of a few different songs, because this is going to be one of their biggest performances. So previously in our game idea, they've usually done one song and then moved on. But because this one's like a pretty big moment for them, they're going to do like a melody mashup performance. Season 3, Episode 9, Alone Again. The manager, Dean, is sacked by the record company for being too old, and the future of S Club 7 is looking bleak. The group have to risk everything in order to get him back, or else it could once again mean the end for S Club. Meanwhile, Rachel is traumatized after discovering that she's got a grey hair. She becomes convinced that she's aging prematurely. You get to this new record studio and you have to perform this song, and this song is going to be a little bit harder than the other ones because you're trying to get a new deal. In this new record studio, you're going to record a song for the new manager instead of Dean. So you're going to go to this new studio, so you're going to drive there and you're going to perform and record your newest single for this new manager. And what makes this one really challenging when you're trying to perform the best is that this manager keeps interrupting you. And maybe because he keeps interrupting you, again, this may distort the track. Like it may, go higher in pitch or lower in pitch. Maybe the track goes in reverse and it just sounds like completely wrong. Then you play as Joe and John and you're trying to find Dean. You're really, really not happy what's going on with your situation and you need to try and find Dean just so you can get back on track. And you try and find him and he is growing flowers out of a trailer. And there's a cutscene where you're like, what are you doing? Like, you can't just be here just growing plants. You need to help us make music. And then you decide to go on strike because you're really not happy with this new management. So then it gets to the point where they end up barricading themselves in their house so they can stay at the rented property. So you need to find ways that nobody can get in. This can be either a time challenge or you don't have to have it as a time challenge, but you just need to find like blocks of wood from in the garden and then you've got to like nail it to the inside of the doors. You've got to make sure that you wrap the locks around your windows, close the curtains, make sure that you have turned all your music off in the flat. Then you need to hide the dog because if the dog starts barking, they're going to know that you're in that house. So make sure you hide the dog in a good place. And if you don't do a good enough job in barricading yourselves in, then your house gets broken into and you get kicked out and it's game over. But if you succeed, you get a knock on the door by Dean and he tells you to get back in that studio and then you record a new song and you're really happy that Dean is now back in the picture. Season 3, Episode 10, Supporting Parts. So S Club 7 are basically asked to be the supporting act for a massive Latino superstar, Miguel Delgado, who the 4 S Club girls are a huge fan of him. But they accidentally knock him out. First of all, you've got to do like the rehearsals for this show. You come out of backstage and this is when you accidentally knock out Miguel. And you've got this mini game where you have to drag him backstage, but you have to drag him by his feet. And it's just like a really, really slow and frustrating mini game, but you have to do it to progress. Then once you've got Miguel backstage, you then have to perform your big melody, which you can choose the songs which you want in the melody, but you've got to get something like 98% of the rhythm correct. Season 3, Episode 11, The Vanishing. So after ruining Miguel's concert and make him lose his memory, the group decides to hang low. They try and hide out in a dirty motel. And then finding themselves broke, they send Hannah and John back to the apartment in a disguise. The main things for this is they have to try and run out of the venue as fast as they can and they need to get to their car. If they don't find their car in time, then they just get swarmed by fans and they can't get to the motel, and then the fans will find out what has happened to Miguel. Once you get into the motel, there's going to be a cutscene and you're going to discuss what they're going to do. Like, we can't hang low forever. And this is when you get to dress John and Hannah as a disguise. And at this point, you get to decide what their disguise is. But you must then get back to their apartment that they were staying at originally. And again, you have to do this in a time limit, otherwise your cover is blown. So when you have got the money back from your place that you're originally at, you're thinking, I feel really guilty. We need to apologize to Miguel. So then you need to drive to Miguel's, let's say, house, you find out where he lives, or say if you find out he's living in a certain hotel, you've got to go and apologize to him. And again, this could be like a multiple choice situation, so you've got to make the right conversation choices, because if you don't, Miguel will just be absolutely fuming and he will tell the whole world what you did to him. But if you make the right choice, then you'll be forgiven and you'll be moved on to the next level. Season 3, episode 12, the concert. So the group have landed a concert where they have to perform in front of 12,000 people next week. Rachel gets extremely nervous and starts to have stage fright, and Tina fears that she may lose her voice on stage. But when it comes to performance, they manage to get over their nerves and perform to their best. There isn't really much in this level, but we are getting to that point now where we're starting to get to the end of the season, and we're about to get to the final season. So we want to make sure that these performances are huge. What I might add for this one is that you get to choose what the stage looks like. So you get to choose what's on the curtains, you get to choose the flooring, you get to choose what songs you play. And so I played Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses, and there was a bit where you can choose the lights that go on display. And I think it would be a really nice feature if you could choose what lights then get projected onto S Club 7 when they're performing in front of 12,000 people. Then it's the final episode of season 3. So this is season 3, episode 13, The Return. They have finally broken America, and S Club 7 are now being sent to do some more international promotion work. They are so excited at the fact that they get to go home after a few months in the USA. And this is just kind of an episode to reflect everything that they have done in America. So back in one of the first episodes that I was talking about, they get on a plane and then they do, some parachuting to get to America. We're going to do the same for England. So again, we're going to have a party on the plane because you've had a huge success. Again, you get to cause chaos on the plane, and then you get to skydive or parachute back to London. Then you overhear the radio show with the fact that S Club 7 have now gone huge, and now they have to hide because they, have to hide from all the crazy fans because they're so big now and they're not used to this sort of crazy fame. So you need to find perfect places to hide. And then just before you go back to England, so I'm going a little bit back and forth of this episode, but you get to do the final tour around America before you head back to England. So this again could be a really, really chilled session where, you get to go around all of America. Maybe there could be a section where you turn on your map and you get to sort of fast travel to different locations if there's certain bits that you miss. And then once you've done everything there, you then go back to London. And this is the end of season 3, S Club Hollywood.